Greetings, I'm Dermot Hussey. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Riffin Radio. Today my special guest is Randall Grass, General Manager of Shanachie Entertainment. He's also a musician, author, radio host, and journalist. Shanachie Records released a number of Alpha Blondy albums in America. Were you responsible for introducing him to the American audience?
Yeah, at the time we got involved, he had no American releases. I think he had 2 albums out internationally and an EP. And because, I had my reggae radio show in Philadelphia and, was always keeping on top of what's going on, I became aware of his Rasta Pue EP and got it. And I was struck by a couple of things. One, that his name, Alpha Blondy, that's really stuck out as what's that all about? Blondie and Alpha and so forth. And then the sound, which was very Marley-esque and very message oriented. And of course, this was around 83, I would say, 83, 84, when, in the wake of Bob's death, it seemed like there was a bit of a void for the type of messenger that Bob was. I mean, Peter was out there, but it just seemed even Peter was off the road for a little bit. There was a void. And then the other interesting thing was, I had lived in Africa and was aware of popularity of reggae in Africa and knew of some artists that did play reggae. But Alpha was the first star to rise in Africa, across borders and also make an impact in Europe. For all those reasons, I reached out to try and license his albums and for a release in America. And I guess I made the initial step, and Shanachie Entertainment was the first label to release Alpha Blondy in the US.
How was his music received in America?
It was received really well, I think, for 2 reasons. One, George Michaelo of Fast Lane Booking put together a major US tour, and the presentation was very much like Bob Marley or Peter Tosh, a full band, backup singers and horns, percussion, everything. Alpha, in the way that he presented himself, was very charismatic. And again, like I just said, people were hungry for a strong message and for that kind of charismatic presentation. So it was extremely well received from the beginning.
He was also called the Bob Marley of Africa. I mean, how do you regard him as a reggae artist?
I think there's a couple of reasonable parallels there. First of all, his sheer popularity and being a focal point for those people who are into reggae in Africa. And in a way, it was a coming home for reggae, to see it take root to such a degree in Africa, given the roots of the music. Second of all, his sound, his vocal sound was somewhat similar to Bob's. And as I say, the arrangement and approach was very much like Bob with his recordings with the Latter Day Wailers Band. And he even recorded one album with the Wailers, Jerusalem. So I think it's a fair, nobody is Bob Marley, but the parallels are there. And furthermore, the way that he toured internationally also supported that view.
Alfred tackled a lot of serious themes in his music. Did they resonate well with the American audience?
Yeah, at least with that portion that was into reggae, it definitely did. Because as I say, there weren't a lot of other prominent artists coming with a strong message. The dancehall thing was taking precedence, and that wasn't as message oriented in a universal sense. Those recordings might have had messages, relevant to Jamaica, but in a universal sense, that kind of artist was not as prominent as it was before. People were hungry for it, and they responded extremely well. The shows were packed, and people, it had that vibe that you would expect at a Bob Marley or Peter Tosh type of show.
Is Alpha still active today? Because I haven't heard much about him in recent times.
I haven't been in touch with Alpha for a while. And, at a certain point, the license is terminated with EMI Records. This was all through EMI. He wasn't signed to us directly. And through some kind of strange corporate maneuver, all of his recordings were with EMI Arabia. And I guess EMI was putting a lot of kind of non-European, non-pop stuff through their EMI Arabia arm. Why, I don't know. But anyway, the licenses lapsed, and eventually VP took up licenses. So last 2 or 3 albums, or 3 or 4 albums, we haven't really been in contact. I haven't seen anything from him recently. He's still, I think he's only about 66, 67 years old. So, he's not super old. He was a few years ago vocal around the unrest that was happening in Ivory Coast, the Civil War, and pretty outspoken. And Alpha does have a history of being outspoken politically in Ivory Coast affairs. In fact, had been arrested in the past when he was younger and so forth. So, he's not just someone that has talked about issues. He has also been personally involved in issues.
Randall, thanks ever so much. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, take care. Let's keep in better touch, and we really appreciate all you've been doing.